So I'm going to show a technique for using the QGIS Atlas feature to export a separate image for each layer that you have in your map project. So for example, I might want to image just of the amenities, just of the highways, etc. I have several vector layers as well as several base maps, and I'm going to export each of these separately using the following workflow. So I'm going to start by running this tool called Export Layers Information. And this is fairly simple. You just need to pick which layers you want to export the information for. I'm going to just select them all, except I don't really need annotations. And I'll just create temporary output. That should be fine. And what this does is it creates a new layer. The the geometry is the bounding boxes for each of these, but I'm zoomed into this area and I'm just going to leave it like that. But if we look at the attribute table, we can see that there's a column called name, which is the name of the layer. If it's more helpful to use something like the file path, you could do that as well. And then I'm going to use this to create the uh, atlas. So first of all, I need to create a new layout. So I'll say new print layout. And I'll start by just adding a map frame to the blank page. So I'm going to go over to the Atlas tab, which is right here, and I'm going to say, yes, I want to generate an atlas. The coverage layer, so this is the thing the atlas is going to iterate through. So each page is going to be based on which layer. It's going to be based on this output. And the page of the atlas is going to be called whatever's in that name column, which was the name of our layer. So that all looks good. The next thing I want to do is go to the item properties. Because I only want to show that single layer on each atlas page. So rather than picking a theme or locking the layers, I'm going to use the data defined override to give us a list of what the layers are. So I'm just going to say edit. And this is going to be a really simple expression in here. It's just going to be the name column. So it's in double quotes. You'll get this message here, and don't worry about that. The way the atlas is set up, it hasn't actually generated the pages yet, but it'll work when it does. So I'll say OK, and then to make sure that it works, I'm going to preview the atlas. So now I'll have a separate page for each of my layers. If I go through these, you can see it's just that single layer. So this should work no matter how many layers you have. If you have layers that you want to have a base map, one thing you could do would be when you create that expression, you could just append to it using the double pipe, and then in single quotes, it says that we want to have a list of map layer names separated by pipe characters. So I'm going to start with a pipe, and then I'm just going to say OSM standard if that's the base map I want to use. Of course, you could use whatever layer you want. And then once I do that, then I'll have that base map for each of these pages. So if your data needs a base map, that's one way to do it. The only other thing I need to change here is I may want to specify what the file output looks like. By default, it's going to be the feature number, which might not be very useful. Since I'm exporting PNGs, there's no single file that's going to have all of these. So I'm going to just turn that off, which lets me edit this expression. And I'm actually going to put into here page name. So it's atlas underscore page name, and that page name is determined by this. So it's basically going to be the name of the layer in the file name. So if I want to try this out, I'll go ahead and click this export the atlas as images, and now it's going to run. I'll pick a folder and read the warning there. Export resolution, I'm just going to set this to 100 just so it runs super fast here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It is done. And if we look at what we get, so what we get here is, yep, here's our images, just as we saw in the preview. So that was a pretty quick way of exporting all those layers. It should work even if you have a lot of layers. If you have a lot of web service layers that you're also exporting, it might take a little bit of time for it to compile those and export them. But otherwise, it's a pretty quick technique, and good luck.